I'm Dr. Kimberly Manning.
And this is Dr. Ashley McMullen. And you're listening to the Human Doctor Podcast, where we explore the human side of medicine, along with teaching, living, learning, and all things in between. Using the power of storytelling, conversation, and connectedness.
Hey, we're two dope academic internal medicine doctors, but we ain't your doctors. So if you perceive anything we say here as medical advice, no, it ain't that. Also, the things we say, they only reflect our brilliant Black woman magic mind and not our employers.
You could have been anywhere, y'all, but you chose to be here with us, and we appreciate you. Let's go.
Let's go. Let's go. Let's go.
Oh my God. Year 3, and we're in the house.
We are legit.
Yes, which means it's also the one time a year I get to see you in person.
Yes,
So.
I know. I don't know if people realize that a lot of our relationship has been built virtually.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we record over a very high-tech Zoom connection. And after that, our executive producer, also known as Ashley,
That's right.
produces it, and that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's always a gift to be able to do this in various settings, and particularly to have the support of our academic home, and for all of you who may have been following us for the last couple of years, to be here and be present with us. So it's good to see your faces in person also.
Yes, we are really excited. So even though our listeners will not be able to see this, I would just like a show of hands of raise your hand if you've ever listened to any podcast before. Okay. Raise your hand if you regularly listen to any podcast. Okay. Raise your hand if you've ever listened to the Human Doctor Podcast. Okay, cool. And then raise your hand if you don't hardly never listen to no podcast.
There you go.
And somebody brought you up in here and you are like, girl, I just came with you. Yes. I know.
Yes.
I know.
Represent.
Okay, all right. Look, all of y'all could have been anywhere, but you chose here to be here with us. Mm-hmm. And we
thank
appreciate you.
Yes.
Let's go.
Let's go.
All right. So, Ashley, how are you doing today on a scale of 1 to 5 at this here SGIM meeting, also known as?
SGIM. I know it no other way, but apparently there's other ways to say it. So I'm going to give myself like a 4.85.
Oh, wow.
And that remainder is mostly because it is cold AF everywhere in this conference, including in this room. You know, I'm originally from the South. I came from California. You know, I expected the East Coast to be kind of cold, but indoors, this is a little rough for me.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I've had a really good experience so far. This convention center is quite beautiful. I don't get to spend a lot of time on this part of the country, so it's nice to be back on the East Coast, getting used to the time change. But I've been particularly moved by some of the sessions I saw this morning as well. So, yeah.
Well, I will dig more into what you were moved by this morning. But I am a woman of a certain age, and I am having a personal summer at all times. But that being said, I have found the rooms to be a little chilly, but I think I will take chilly over sweltering. And I live in Georgia, so, you know, sweltering is coming our way very, very soon. Mm-hmm. I would say on a scale of 1 to 5, I am a solid 4.9.
Okay.
The only reason I'm not a 5 is because I want to leave room for cream in case something like really exciting pops off in the next few hours. So let's save some time for it. So yeah, it's a good day. It's a good day to be alive and to look out at some friends here in the audience. Shout out to all of you, because some of y'all are really important. You could really be anywhere. You probably should be somewhere. You need to look at the app and see if you are like doing a workshop that starts now. And I'm looking at several of you. I'm really wondering, like, why are you here? So I just want to ping back over to you, saying that there have been some things that you've been really inspired by so far. So would love to hear what's maybe a highlight for you? So.
Yeah, I would have to say that one of the bigger highlights for me this morning was attending a conversation that took place. The title was A Liberal and a Conservative Come Together to Discuss Matters of DEI. And of course, the title itself is drawing near. Yeah. But I think, particularly it was, I think, a really moving demonstration of respectful discourse around a topic that, especially in academic medicine, has so many of us feeling, not only it can be both divisive and triggering, but it feels like personal attacks right now. And it's hard to actually find opportunities to sit at a table with someone who seems to disagree on things that you may fundamentally find to be true, and to be able to respectfully talk about it and disagree, but also find areas of commonality and be brought back to that space, and also to be genuinely respectful of each other and be able to share ways in which your thought process has shifted as a matter of that conversation. I specifically want to shout out Jada Bussey Jones for being such an incredible mentor in so many different ways, but being willing to go out and demonstrate that conversation.
Yeah, let's just repeat that Jada Bussey Jones is awesome, okay? So I'm fortunate to be mentored by Jada Bussey Jones. She's our immediate past president of SGIM. And that was a courageous thing for her to agree to do. No matter how much planning goes on, and especially when you're held in high esteem like she is, I think to sit in front of people and have a conversation like that, or even agree to it, was bold. But if you know her, she is bold. The other thing is that Jada is very quietly confident, and so watching her talk to anybody, especially in a time of conflict, is really like a master class. And one of the things you said to me this morning after going to the session was that if for any other reason than to see it modeled to you how to have civil discourse, it was really worth listening to. We were trying to figure out if certain things were recorded. That's beyond our pay grade to know for sure. SGIM, if you're listening to this, you should have recorded that because people are asking. But yeah.
Well, I also had the honor of attending our plenary, particularly the back half of it, where there were a couple awards given. One in particular, I had to go back and write this down so I didn't forget the full name, but I think it's something like Achievement in Education and in Innovation, which is a pretty big deal, I would say, especially given all the incredible clinician educators that are part of this conference. And surprise, surprise, that award went to you, actually. And
surprise.
So I was like midway through the back. You probably didn't see me waving and screaming, but it was really cool to see you up there, and particularly the way that you got up and honored the folks who kind of helped you get there, including the late great Mr. Tony Draper.
That's right. I appreciate that. So that I don't awkwardly bask in her saying this, I will just make this funny. So last year's recipient was Dr. Monica Lipson, who's one of our past presidents of SGIM. Monica's awesome. Those who listen to our podcast know that I'm a very proud member of Delta Sigma Theta sorority. And every chance I get, I'm letting people know who is a Delta. They're like, and Jada's a Delta. Ashley's like, what?
Yes.
So, yeah, she's a Delta. Yeah. And if the person is not a Delta, or I'm not sure, I start Googling them while they're talking. I'm like, is she a Delta? So when I first met Monica, she was up doing something awesome at SGIM, and I was like, is she my sorority sister? And then up pops that she is a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. So as a fun thing between Monica and I, we like to tease each other about that because we have a loving little rivalry. I made sure next to her picture, next to her award, to always make sure I put my face in the picture next to hers, holding up my Delta sign. And she returned the favor this morning. So Again, really, really honored to even share company with somebody like Monica, and also just to share, to have any colleague think to nominate you for anything. So shout out to anybody who was nominated for anything this year, because for those of us who have done nominations, especially for big awards at SGIM and other academic homes, that in itself is like a publication. And people don't have to do it. So I'm grateful to have won the award, but I'm also want to just acknowledge anybody else who was in the running.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Any other talks or workshops that stood out
Let's
to
see.
you?
Okay, yeah, I did. Okay, so this morning at the plenary, there was one of the big plenary talks. What's Sandra's last name? Zabar. Okay. Yep. Also from New York. She was talking about all of her work with OSCEs, or observed structural clinical exams, but then went on to talk about this innovation they had where they had like these secret shopper patients rolling up in the clinic on people. OMG. I was like, I am here for this. So this innovation described a way to see, like, it's one thing for people to watch you on film when you know you're being filmed, seeing a patient and it's all robotic and they're like, that's not real. So they got, I'm assuming they're standardized patients, to come in to the clinic folded into the schedule and be patients, and then afterwards collect data. And they learned a lot. And I just thought it was a really courageous and massive thing for somebody to take on. Because, I mean, obviously the first thing everybody said when they heard it was, wow, that is so cool. But then because we're nerds and we're administrators, I started immediately trying to logistically put this together at Grady Hospital. I'm like, okay, no, because that's not going to work, because then that's going to have to take up an appointment. And then the residents are going to know. They're going to be like, it's a secret shopper here today. And then like one of the MAs is going to come up and be like, okay, look, that lady is an actress. I'm just letting you know. So I had questions, and I figured they didn't want me to go to the mic and say, now what do you do when the residents know? But the cool part I think about it is that they found a way to think beyond the box of just, OSCE suites and people being watched as they used to be. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I thought that was cool. I do have more questions for her though.
Maybe we can find her afterwards.
Yes. Okay. So what have you read lately?
Oh my gosh.
Because we love to talk about books and we love to nerd out about books. Or what are you thinking about reading?
Everything.
Okay.
All the things. But, one of my favorite experiences sometimes is just like the books that choose you, that you don't necessarily go looking for. So sometimes I'll just show up at the library, the bookstore, and like this happened recently. I was just wandering around the Oakland Public Library, and I happened to get there right as they were closing. So I was like, I gotta pick something quick. And I happened to pick up Girl, Woman, Other. Oh. Bernadine Everstein. I think I'm blanking on the name exactly. I'll correct myself later. But this was a book that was published in 2019, got a lot of press at the time, and it happens to be set in London. And it is a story that follows the intersecting lives of 12 different women, all varying degrees of Black or African among the diaspora. And a lot of the characters are queer or have other intersecting identities. And it's just such a lovely written book. Like, she doesn't write in complete sentences. It's just like full run-on sentences and paragraphs, and the structure is fun, and it's just like a really fun book to read. So I read that and I was like, I want to go to London now. So I'm going to London in a few weeks.
You are going to London?
Yes, but that was part of the inspiration.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I am also going to London soon as well, so I'm not trying to one-up you. But,
no, it's cool. You had it first. So.
I did. But y'all will hear more about that in the future. I'm going to say I want to read because I see a lot of my book booze in the room. Stacey Higgins, Leslie Miller. We talk about books we should read. But I want to read Yesteryear. Stacey said that was amazing, so I'm looking forward to that. But I will say that two of my favorite books this year, though I've mentioned it on our podcast before, but since I have some new friends in the room, I want to make sure y'all read these books if you haven't. Theo of Golden.
Yes. Oh my God.
Oh my gosh. When somebody tells me they have not read Theo of Golden, it is like when somebody tells me they have not watched Ted Lasso. Like, I am immediately envious of them to get to experience it for the first time, because once you've experienced it, you can't like re-experience it for the first time. So Theo of Golden, you must read. And I should know the author's name, but I don't remember his name, but look it up. I do know that he is a senior citizen, and that's his debut novel. And that in itself, as a woman of a certain age, is like very inspiring. And then the other book that was recommended to me by my bestie boo, Leslie Miller, Hep C expert extraordinaire from Grady Hospital.
Well, what?
Is the book The Heart's Invisible Furies. Have y'all ever read The Heart's Invisible Furies? Oh, I love the nerds that are nodding yes. That was a good book, right? That book was outstanding. And I'm not going to even tell y'all what the books are about. You just need to go. And I audio listened. So let me just say, I am a busy person. So I need to be able to do laundry, cook, do something else at the same time while the book is going. And the narrations of those books are very, very good. I am a narrator snob. So I'm not just telling you the content is good and the narrator is good. So,
Love
yes.
it. Love it.
Oh, and Ken.
Yes, sorry. That's my next one.
Okay.
I'm gonna get that.
Okay. Well, I think it's about that time to shift gears, right?
Yeah. I always get caught up and I was like, oh, we have to tell our own stories. Yes.
So, kings, queens, and non-binary royalty, we're glad that you're here. And now is the time to hear some stories. So because this is a live recording, it's going to be a little different because you're going to hear a story from each of us today. And that's going to be kicked off by the person you really came here to see and listen to. And that is our executive producer, the Ashley McMullen. Interplanet Janet, tree hugging, electric car driving,
Wow. Yes.
running races abroad, and all the things. Twist out hair, Mahalia looking good, all the things. She's here to tell you a story, but it begins with a what.
Yes.
So, Ash, what is the what?
The what? First of all, thank you for the introduction. And
That's just to give you time. You
Yeah,
know
no,
what
I
that is,
appreciate
right?
that, but I was like, I don't know how I'm going to replicate that, but cool. The what is intervention.
Ooh, intervention. Okay.
Yeah.
Intervention.
Yeah. What comes to mind for you for the word intervention?
I mean, obviously, if you've ever watched TV, the first thing you think about is like the A&E TV show, which gives you deep panic and then you turn it off. But also just sometimes if you are doing something and you're not realizing how it's harming you, and a good friend says, girl, this is an intervention, which may or may not have been said to me by friends before.
I love that. I'm glad you brought up the show because that was like my first terrible connotation as well.
Okay.
But it's definitely not that. And I was thinking particularly like, there's a phrase that we share that you've coined, which is, throw a flag on the play. Kind of when something is going down and we need to kind of pump the brakes and pivot into a different direction. And I was thinking about times where I actually had to do this for myself. And actually, reflecting back now that I'm later in my career, remembering when I did this as a trainee, and I was actually quite proud of myself for how it went down. So this took place my third year of residency, so my last year as a senior resident. And it was towards the end of the year. So it was my last month as a senior resident on the wards. And within a few weeks, actually, I would be transitioning into my chief residency year at UCSF. And so for this last month, it was actually split in half. I was going to do the first half of the month at San Francisco General Hospital, which is where I had my clinic. It was where I was going to be chief. That was like my home. Like I knew that place in and out. That was like my version of Grady. The second half was going to be at our university hospital. We call our Parnassus campus. Incredible hospital, such incredible learning, great dedicated staff. also a place where I've experienced a little bit more what I would consider imposter syndrome. The sense that perhaps not just not belonging, but feeling I had to kind of level up my psychological size in order to be there. So first half of the month, as a senior resident, my attending actually in both cases was going to be the current chief resident. So I was like, bet, it's going to be more of a collaborative process, but also I'm friends with both of the chief residents who are going to be my attendings. And the first half of the general was awesome. We had a great team, great sub-I, everything kind of went as planned, loved it. And I just happened to have an all-women team at that rotation. My next location also had a great team. They happened to all be men. And none of whom I had racial concordance with. So a couple of differing identities there, but gender being one of the primary among them. But the chief resident, again, was a good friend of mine. I'll call him Dan. And we had known each other through residency, and we sat down and kind of decided how we wanted to run things. And we're just like, well, he proposed, why don't we just be a team? I don't mind talking to patients. I don't mind writing notes. We can collaborate and make this more efficient. And so I was just like, that sounds great. We're going to be in and out of here. It's going to be a two-man team. There's not going to be any hierarchy with attending. And so I was full on in agreement. Plus it was at the end of residency for me. I was trying to get up out of there. And so we started off with a really great collaboration. And, again, we kind of presented ourselves as, both leaders of the team. But over time, one of the things that I started to notice was we would go into a room and, be talking to a patient, and the patient's eyes would immediately be averted towards Dan. And they would stay there. And so, and this was kind of occurring in many situations where both of us were kind of at the bedside, but the deference was more towards him. And it wasn't that he was being overbearing or not giving me space. It was just kind of felt like the default. And so my first kind of day off as a senior resident, anybody who's been an attending on the wards, I don't know if there's any wards attendings out in the audience, but that the day that the senior is off, the next day is just oh, thank God, And so I come back kind of expecting, to try to clean up whatever happened that day, but what I was noticing was it felt a little bit more like this kind of bro vibe. Nothing against the bros. But, I was feeling like I was losing control of this team. And I had to admit my role in that, being that, there were, as a senior resident, you're kind of expected to kind of step up and take the lead. And even though it was nice to have someone as an attending wanting to partner with me on that, the result was that, I'm seeing a lot more of the energy shifting towards deferring to his judgment over mine. And I decided that I was going to say something. And, one of the hard things about being in that environment, and I think this is true in many academic settings, but sometimes, when you have friends who are real, champions of equity, calling out situations where that's not the case, it can feel like perhaps you're going to ruin the relationship or hurt their feelings or things like that. And I was really concerned about my relationship with Dan and how this was going to play out going forward. But we actually had a really good conversation. I asked him, I was like, hey, can we chat in your office? And I was just like, Dan, I know that we wanted to kind of divide the work before and have you share the load with me, but what I'm noticing is that the patients and our attendings are tending to defer to you. And it's not that there's anything overtly wrong, but I think I need to be more in charge of this team. And his response, though I think there was some surprise there, was to step back. And that was my ask of him. It was like, I need you to talk less when we're in the room. And that's exactly what he did. And I think, and I have a smaller story that's a corollary to that, but just to pause there and just to name, it was a situation that was helpful for me, and I'm projecting, but probably for him as well, because sometimes you just don't know. And some things are just so baked into society that if you're not actively working against that default, then that's just what's going to happen. Yep. And so that was a big learning point for me also in terms of how to name that and how to position myself, whether like how I'm standing physically in the room, like who's speaking first, but just to make sure that that is how things play out. And then the second thing I'll just name briefly, like subsequent to that. So after I graduated and I became a chief, now I'm an attending. And in our clinic at the General where I was chief, I had two incredible primary preceptees who were both interns. And one of them was an incredible physician who is now on faculty. But a tall male colleague who I shared racial concordance with, and we shared a lot of co-management of patients. And sometimes when he wasn't in clinic, I would see his patients on my panel. Mm-hmm. And so we had a great collaboration there. We had a patient who we both had great rapport with, shared racial concordance, gentleman with heart failure, came in often because we had to do a lot of medication titration. And one of the things that I started noticing when we were in the room is that he would, whenever he was talking to us, he would mention, oh, Dr. Mitchell, blah, 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 but then he would call me by my first name. Ooh. Even though he knew that we were both doctors and knew that I was, in fact, Dr. Mitchell's supervisor. And this happened.
Wait, the patient did this?
The patient did this.
Okay.
And the patient would do this multiple times. Mm-hmm. It happened multiple times. And so one day I had the patient in my office just with me on a day that my intern was gone. And it happened again. And I mean, and to be honest, like, it's annoying. It's not like, it is, this is an older person who just doesn't know any better. But, I had to pause for a moment to recognize, like, I'm not sure if this is intentional. Mm. And so I just asked the patient, I was like, have you noticed that when you talk about us, you happen to call Dr. Mitchell with the honorific, the doctor, but you call me by my first name? And his jaw dropped to the ground. Mm. He literally had no idea that he was doing this. Mm. And he was so horrified and apologetic. And I just kind of like made a joke out of it and, just kind of tried to lighten the mood. But it was also interesting to see how, how wired he was to just kind of make that juxtaposition. Mm-hmm. And, suffice to say, he never forgot it. And even after I finished chief year and went on to the VA, I heard from the intern and later resident, it's like, he brings this up every time he comes into clinic and like continues to apologize. And, I appreciate that because of course, we have many stories in which these types of things don't go well. But I think what was helpful for me was like recognizing that, in many ways, people don't know what they don't know. Mm-hmm. And while these things can feel hurtful and also frustrating to have the energy and take the time in a busy clinic appointment to have to address these things, I think that, holding on to the opportunity to approach things with curiosity as opposed to, kind of calling out, so to speak, is a strategy that I continue to employ. And I have done this again in my VA when I have many male veterans or veterans of which have differing identities from me. And we're just learning to get to know each other. And they're also learning to open up a broader narrative of who a doctor is. Mm-hmm. And it's really, a lot of times it's a privilege to be able to be the one to share that. And again, I have my moments where it's not such a fun privilege, but these were important lessons for me early on that I appreciated.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Oh, wow. So much I love about what you just shared. I think the first part I want to think about is the orientation in the room when you walk in the room and what it does to how patients see things. I want to give a shout out to Gurpreet Dhaliwal from UCSF, who was one of the first people that talked to me about blocking in the room as the attending. When you walk in the room, where is everybody standing? Where is the intern presenting standing? Where are you as the attending standing? And, it really does, if you're not thinking about it, people will defer to who they think is in charge. And I think now that I have some gray hair and a little season on me, that is, in the past that wasn't me, but now, like, I notice that the patient just keeps talking and looking at me. And I will also say people will gravitate to who they feel safest with as well. So at Grady Hospital, a lot of the patients there seem like people that could be related to me. So if I'm the senior person on the team, I'm in a white coat or a Patagucci, and I'll walk in and we start talking, they will feel safe and keep looking in my direction. So Gurpreet taught me to kind of move out of the line of sight of the patient so that everybody would look to the resident. I think also this idea of you giving people the benefit of the doubt. What an incredible gift to give to somebody, to not assume that they are doing you dirty. Because so much happens where, particularly if you have been hurt, that you start to interpret everything that everyone does as that they're trying to hurt you. And as somebody, from an underrepresented background, and for me, I came from, Tuskegee and then Meharry, and then, ultimately ended up at Emory. And sometimes you would think like, oh, people are saying and doing this because of how I talk or where I'm from, or that I didn't come from an Ivy League or something like that, when it's just that they don't even realize it, what they're doing or what they're saying. And some people do, right? Some people do intend to harm you. But as we said like a couple weeks ago, people don't suck as much as we sometimes think they do. There are a lot of people out there who really do mean well. And and actually to the part about your name, I actually find the name thing to be really interesting. My friends and I at Grady talk a lot about how our patients in the South, as an honorific, will call you, say, hi, I'm Dr. Manning. I'm the senior doctor on the team. Hey, Miss Manning. And it took time for me to realize that calling you Miss Manning, Miss McMullen, Miss Miller, is really a way for patients to honor you. And if you feel like that does not feel affirming to you, I've not had any patient who was calling me something I didn't want to be called not respond when I ask them not to. I don't generally like people to call me by my first name at work. And I've had, patients say, hey, Kimberly, and I'll say, hey, is it okay if you call me Dr. Manning? You can even call me Dr. Kimberly, and usually after that, they get right in line. And I say there are some people who do like to be called by their first name. And I think that it's a great honor when you give somebody, the respect to see where they're coming from, give them a chance to correct. Now, if I give you the correction and you don't correct, then after that, you're going to get all of this Houston and all this Inglewood. That's what you're going to get.
Yes.
But I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. And I love that he keeps bringing it up because it's probably a pivotal moment for him, right?
Exactly.
That he said, wow, this doctor thought enough of me to tell me, something was wrong.
Yes.
Like last night, we were having dinner, a group of us, and we were talking a little bit about something that happened with a learner once where the faculty member told the learner what they'd done wrong. And it was kind of hurtful to hear, but like looking back on it, it's really, really a gift someone gives to you when someone tells you to your face, makes that intervention about what you're doing, like where you could improve. Opportunities for improvement, as we like to say.
Oh, opportunity.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
Of course, yeah. And, and I'm thinking about the times also where, it's been gently brought to my attention, things that I have said or behaved in a way that could be tweaked or intervened on.
Yep.
And oftentimes it comes from learners. Like you were saying before, our learners have gotten more and more vocal. And a lot of times, it elevates the profession because we don't often hear it otherwise.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But thank you for listening, sis. Thank
course.
y'all for listening. And,
Of course.
I went first because now y'all are trapped in the room because who you really came to see is our award winner here, our local SGIM celebrity, always showing up fabulous. Jules is looking great, very seasoned.
Jules is my hair, if you're going. Her hair's name is Mahalia. My hair's name is Jules, and we address them by name.
Yes, they're actually in charge of this whole operation.
Yes, they are.
But I know you got a story for us as well, sis. So hopefully you remember it this time.
I remember that I'm telling the story, but I've been trying to like turn over in my head what is. I'll say book cover.
Book cover. Okay.
Because you can't judge a book by its cover.
Okay.
Because I was trying to figure out how to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does that work?
No, that works.
That'll work?
We make up the rules as we
go.
go.
Yeah, we do. So. I'll check in with our executive producer.
Yeah.
Who is you?
Yeah.
So you say, okay. All right. So y'all, I'm going to take y'all back. I'm going to take y'all way back to Tuskegee University in the fall of 1988. Shout out to everybody who was born at that time. And to those of you who weren't, God bless you. So when I was a freshman at Tuskegee University in Tuskegee, Alabama, in my first semester on the campus of this beautiful, sprawling, historically black college, there were all these new people there. I'm from California originally, so I had come from California to Alabama, and I'm suddenly in this space where, like, my parents aren't there to tell me anything. There's one phone on the hall, so your mama can't be calling you. I'm not on her location.
Wow.
She can't find me on the iPhone. Nobody knew what I was doing in that place. And about maybe a week or so into me being at school, I was in a cafeteria one day, and I see this guy in the cafeteria. And it was like the sunbeams landed all on him, like the heavens opened up, a cherub flew out of the side of the cafeteria and was like, look at him, this is perfection. I was like, OMG. But I never could get close enough to him to ever talk to him or say anything to him. So this is like back in the day. I don't know if you guys ever saw Spike Lee's movie School Days, but shortly after the first time I saw him, he began the process of joining a fraternity on campus, and he was like on one of the pledge lines. And so even more so, he would be with the other pledges, and I couldn't like talk to him or see him, but I would just see him. So I began to tell my like roommate, I'm like, oh my God, look at him, my future husband, oh my gosh. So I was like I was really building up who this dude was. So mind you, every time I saw him, he was like walking by. Then he was like dressed like everybody else. So I couldn't really tell what kind of style he had. It didn't matter because he was my husband. Whatever his style was, it was going to be perfect because he's amazing. And I didn't know what his major was. I was too scared to ask what is his name from anybody because they would know that I liked him. I was truly obsessed with him. So all the time, my friends in my dorm hall, Frederick Douglass Hall, they all knew that I liked him. They'd be like, oh my gosh, I saw your future husband today. Your future husband, I think your future husband is a business major because I saw him by the business school. I think your future husband is an engineering major because I saw him in the engineering building. I was like, is my future husband in like hard classes or easy classes? What is he like? So nobody seems to know much about him. So all this time goes by, and this is really, really building up, y'all. I mean, really, really building up. So it is almost like the end of October. Y'all, school starts in August. At the end of October, this all of the fraternities and sororities, everybody becomes members, and it's like around homecoming time. And I'm at this party, and now he's like able to mingle and talk to people and everything, but he don't know me, even though he's my husband. So I'm standing in this party, and across the room, I look, and in walks this dude. So he walks in, he's looking around the room. Now he got on his fraternity shirt. He all cool, he with his friends. My friends are like, oh. Y'all can't see me hitting Ashley, but that's what I'm doing. So he's looking, and then he stops and locks eyes with me. and he is looking at me. I said, oh my Lord. He is looking me in my eye. I look over my shoulder and he is looking at me. I was like, oh my God. My friend's like, girl, he is looking at you. I was like, oh my God. And then he takes one step and it is in my direction, y'all. I said, Lord have mercy, I'm about to pass out. Fortunately, my pelvic floor was strong back then, so I was able to keep it together. And he starts walking toward me. Shout out to everybody who don't have a strong pelvic floor. That's a separate conversation for another episode. But he's walking towards me and he's getting closer and my heart is like boom, boom, boom. It's like beating out of my chest. I'm about to faint. He gets closer and closer and closer. I was like, oh my God, my friends like back up. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna be one of these girls that meets the love of my life my freshman year. We're gonna be booed up for 2 years. We're gonna get married right after graduation. Oh, I see my whole future. And then he leans on the wall next to me and he leans over and he goes, so, what your name is? I will never forget it. It was something really strange he said. But he had one of the most terrible cases of halitosis that I have ever seen, like, been a part of in my life. And he kept talking and every word he said began with an H. So how long you been, hey, and the more he talked, it was like this very nasal, odd way he talked. I was just devastated. I'm like, oh my gosh. And the point of this is that we really build people up and things up in our heads. So much so that you can create a narrative that is so, so strong that when somebody does not line up with what you created in your head, you don't even know what to do with it. Mm-hmm. So as time goes by, I actually got to know this person. He was not my husband. My husband is Harry. Shout out to you, Harry, even though you never listen to my podcast. But he was a really nice person. I think he was having a bad day when maybe he needed, to see a dentist. So the halitosis didn't linger. He was just a regular dude, and he was not my future husband at all, but I think I just had this whole idea. And I'm bringing this up because again, there's just so many spaces where you think you know, but you have no idea. Mm-hmm. Maybe something like somebody getting an award at SGIM, right? They go on stage, they get to hold the little plexiglass or whatever it's made out of and get their picture taken. You get this idea of who they are, so maybe you can't come talk to them or approach them. Or maybe they're this, or maybe they're that, or maybe whatever they're doing is not attainable for you. When that's not really fair, really the thing we should do is just let people be who they are. And how you feel about somebody else will really begin with how you feel about you. Now, for him, I didn't necessarily think bad things about him, but there were probably opportunities where I could have met him. But I just kept myself kind of distant because I sort of felt like it was out of my range. And I think that in medicine, there have been times that I've done that too. There have been times with like leaders in medicine that I've not approached. There have been times when I was a resident where there were, attendings or people that probably could have, helped me career-wise, and I didn't go near them because I thought, maybe they were too on high for me, or I thought something, about them. And that story always makes me realize that we got to let people just be who they are, or at least be willing to, remix the narrative once we see who they are. And let me just add this one thing, and you were a chief resident also. I would say the hardest thing about when I was chief resident is that I had so many attendings that I had on these pedestals, and I had this idea of these people as like bigger than life. And then I discovered when I was chief resident that like, oh, this person is raggedy. They are not helpful. they are like obstinate. They're like, oh, and then the person that maybe I completely slept on and underestimated was fantastic, was one of the most supportive attendings, one of the greatest teachers, the biggest supporters, best sponsors. So even then, sometimes the most quiet, the most reserved, the most stealthy person can be the person who could actually completely change your career and bring out the best in you if you are willing to get proximate enough to see who they really are, and then when you get next to them, let them be who they are, and let go of whatever idea you had of them.
I thought you were going to mention something about smell their breath or something like that, but
no, but that could be an intervention. You're like, well, this is my dentist. Yeah.
Oh my God. But it's such I'm sorry, I'm so excited by that, that I'm jumping in. But, it actually reminds me of just like the moment I found out realized my parents were human beings. Mm-hmm. How I feel like that was like the first time, in my life, you have a big idea of, these people. And then at some point you realize they're humans, they make mistakes, and there's an opportunity to, actually fill in the gaps of your story with the reality and actually get to know people. And, and this is what we're tasked with every day as physicians, as educators. It was, I think, probably the most humbling thing for me was, having to be a medical student coach for students that came from so many different areas, had so many different needs, and recognizing that, I can't fill in all the gaps just based on their application. Mm-hmm. And to really, it takes time and intention to know the truth of someone's story. Mm-hmm. And I think, this is, again, going back to the talk that Jada did with her colleague, I think Kevin Taff is his name. One of the things they started with was each other's stories and how that framed some of their ideas around what DEI means to each of them. Mm-hmm. And I really love that that's how it started, because context matters. And again, you can disagree with someone, but it is helpful to kind of understand who they are holistically, because how you react to their ideas might be centered in who you think they are. Mm-hmm. But if that's not true, then that can really, set both of y'all up for not being able to have that civil discourse that was demonstrated. Yeah. So,
I think one of the whole points of us even calling this the Human Doctor podcast is to humanize our patients, but also us. We are extremely imperfect people that are just trying to figure it out day by day by day by day. Sometimes it's figuring out what's the right thing to say. Sometimes it's figuring out how to, fix something that we got feedback on. Maybe for me last night, it was trying to figure out if my contact lenses would be okay in a plastic cup because I forgot my contact lens case. Mm-hmm. I'm like, hey, SGIM, do you know that your award winner forgot our contact lens case? But yeah, the plastic cup worked. We pivot, we make it work. Mm-hmm. We figure it out. But we're all human. And I think that being said, normally this is the point where we say that we're going to be at the SGIM conference. But we're already here at the SGIM conference. So, yes, sis, I am really grateful for another year to be here with you.
Yes.
We like to make our affirmations very clear to each other. And I love you. Mm-hmm. My life is better for you in it. Grateful that my visiting professorship at UCSF included a 30-minute meeting with a junior faculty member who was trying to figure it out, and that our souls bowed to one another and agreed to continue our relationship. So I love you.
I love you too, sis. And I'm so grateful for your belief in me to learn how to edit a podcast and, share this journey with me. But, in particular, I think that, we talk a lot about mentorship and, I think it just goes without saying that, even within that 30 minutes, of course, that connection was made. But, you took it the extra step to make sure that we exchanged numbers. And, I think I've had a lot of great mentors, but when I think of, the person who has single-handedly like changed my life and my career at the same time, that is you. And I'm so grateful that our souls met and they bowed, and I look forward to everything that happens next.
All right. Love you.
Love you too, sis.
That wraps up this week's episode of the Human Doctor Podcast.
Special thanks to our favorite brother gastroenterologist, Dr. Chuma Obiname, for the beats. Shout out to the Dr. Ashley McMullen for editing and production.
Mad love to our podcast family at The Nocturnist and the Clinical Problem Solvers, our Med Twitter fam.
And especially shout out to all of you, our listeners.
Until next week, remember,
we see you and you are enough. Holla!